It was just another night at a quiet diner when a billionaire walked in, but something in his wallet made Rachel's blood run cold. There, among the bills and cards, was a picture of her mother, the simple black woman who had lived an ordinary life raising her child alone. Her mother had no known ties to wealth or power. So why was her picture in the wallet of a wealthy white billionaire? The truth cannot be ignored, even when the lie seems more comfortable. This is the dilemma Rachel will face. Are you ready for the truth? Stay with us, and find out how the revelation of this mystery changed her life forever. The late-night shift dragged on in the diner. The hum of a flickering neon sign barely broke the silence of the night. Rachel Stone wiped down the counter, exhausted, but relieved that the night was almost over. Then the bell above the door jingled. She looked up, expecting another weary traveler or a local looking for coffee. But instead a sharply dressed man walked in, his presence commanding. His suit probably cost more than her entire yearly rent, and he moved with quiet confidence, scanning the diner like someone who owned every room. He sat down at a booth by the window, his piercing gaze fixed on the city streets. When Rachel walked over to take his order, he didn't even bother to look at the menu. "Black coffee," he ordered in a firm voice. She nodded and wrote it down. A few minutes later she returned with his drink, but he barely acknowledged her. Rachel was used to customer indifference, so she didn't take it personally. But when he reached for his wallet to pay, something slipped out, a photograph. It fluttered to the floor, face up. Rachel's heart stopped. She knew that face. The warm, gentle smile, the kind eyes, her mother. For a moment, all she could do was stare, her pulse pounding in her ears. Before she could stop herself, she bent down and picked it up. "Where did you get this?" Her voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. The man's head snapped up, his cool blue eyes locking with hers. For the first time, he truly saw her. Rachel turned the photograph toward him, gripping it tightly. "Why do you have a picture of my mother?" His expression flickered for a second before becoming unreadable again. Without a word, he reached for the photograph, his fingers brushing hers as he took it. "You must be mistaken," he said, tucking it back into his wallet as if it meant nothing. Rachel's stomach twisted. She knew exactly what she had seen. Her mother had kept an identical photograph in a small memory box at home. She had memorized every crease, every detail. This wasn't a mistake. "I'm not mistaken," she said firmly. "Why do you have it?" The man exhaled sharply, adjusting the cuff of his expensive suit. "I don't owe you an explanation." Then, before she could react, he stood, placed a crisp $100 bill on the counter, and walked toward the door. Panic surged through her. He was leaving. This might be her only chance to find out the truth. She rushed out from behind the counter, nearly knocking over a tray in her haste. "Wait!" she shouted. But he was already heading toward a sleek black car parked at the curb. The driver stepped out to open the door. Rachel's heart pounded. "Please, just tell me how you knew her." For a brief moment, he paused, his hand resting on the car door. She hoped he might actually say something. Instead, he turned just enough to meet her gaze, his stare cool and detached. "Forget this," he said, in a voice devoid of emotion. Then he slid into the car, and the door shut behind him. The engine roared to life, and before she could take another step, the vehicle disappeared into the night. Rachel stood frozen on the sidewalk, her breath coming in uneven bursts. A billionaire had just walked into her life, and left her with more questions than she could count. Who was he, and why did he have a photograph of her mother? She wasn't letting this go. She was going to find out the truth. Rachel didn't sleep that night. She sat at her tiny kitchen table, her laptop open, searching for any clue about the man from the diner. She didn't know his name. No business card, no receipt with a name, just his face, his voice, the dismissive way he had looked at her. But that photograph changed everything. She started searching for wealthy business tycoons, real estate moguls, and influential CEOs. Dozens of names flooded her screen, but none matched his face. Her frustration grew as hours passed, but just when she was about to give up, she found him. James Walker, CEO of Walker Global Enterprises, a billionaire real estate mogul, a man whose empire spanned cities, with his name tied to luxury developments and high-profile deals. Rachel clicked on his image, her breath hitching. It was him. She scrolled through article after article, but nothing linked him to her mother. No past relationships, no known family ties, nothing, which meant only one thing: he had erased her. Rachel clenched her fists. He had walked into that diner, holding a picture of her mother, and acted as if she didn't exist, as if Evelyn Stone meant nothing. The thought made her blood boil. She wasn't letting this go. She needed answers, and she knew exactly where to start. The next morning, Rachel boarded the first bus downtown. Her heart pounded as she stepped off in front of a massive glass skyscraper, Walker Global Enterprises. The building loomed over her, a symbol of wealth and power, but she wasn't intimidated. She walked inside straight to the reception desk. "I need to see James Walker," she said, her voice steady. The receptionist barely looked up. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Rachel admitted, "but it's important." The woman sighed, unimpressed. "Mr. Walker doesn't take walk-in meetings." Rachel expected this. She had no appointment, no official reason to be there. If she wanted answers, she'd have to find another way in. Her eyes darted around the lobby. Security guards near the elevators. Employees flashing badges to get through the turnstiles. No way. She wasn't getting in the normal way. Then she spotted him, a young man in his mid-20s, balancing a coffee cup and folder, heading toward the elevators. He looked distracted. She moved quickly, falling into step beside him. "Hey," she whispered urgently. "Wait up. You forgot to send me that report. Mr. Walker needed it this morning." The man blinked, startled. "What?" Rachel sighed in feigned exasperation. "The report." He was expecting it. Before he could respond, she smoothly stepped forward, walking right through the turnstile just as his badge activated the sensor. The guard barely glanced at her. She was in. Her pulse pounded as she stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. This was it. She was about to come face to face with James Walker, and this time, he wasn't walking away. The elevator doors slid open to the top floor of Walker Global Enterprises. Rachel stepped out, her breath shallow, hands clenched at her sides. The reception area was sleek, modern and intimidating. A man in a dark suit approached her instantly. "Miss, do you have an appointment?" he asked. "No," she said, "but I need to see James Walker. It's about my mother." The man's jaw tightened. "Mr. Walker doesn't take walk-ins." Rachel exhaled, her heart pounding. "Tell him my mother's name was Evelyn Stone, and I'm not leaving until I speak to him." The man hesitated before disappearing down a hallway. The minutes stretched endlessly. Then finally, a door opened. James Walker stepped out. The moment he saw her, something flickered in his gaze. Not surprise, not anger, something closer to resignation. He walked toward her, slow and deliberate. After a long pause, he simply said, "Come with me." Rachel followed him into his office, her heart racing. The moment the door closed, she turned to face him. "Why do you have a picture of my mother?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his desk, pulled out his wallet, and placed the photograph on the table. Rachel stared at it. Then slowly, her gaze lifted to his. "You knew her," she whispered. James met her eyes, his expression unreadable. "I didn't just know her," he said finally. "I loved her." Rachel's world tilted beneath her feet. She had come for answers, but she wasn't prepared for this. James leaned against his desk, exhaling sharply. "I loved her," he repeated, his voice carrying the weight of years of regret. "But I walked away." Rachel's chest tightened. "Why?" His jaw clenched. "Because I was a coward. My family made it clear. If I stayed with Evelyn, I'd lose everything. The inheritance, the business, my place in their world." Rachel's stomach churned. "So you left her for money?" James's gaze darkened. "I thought I could come back for her later, when I secured my future. But by the time I did, she was gone." Rachel's hands curled into fists. Her mother had suffered while this man had lived in luxury. "She never told me about you," she whispered, her voice raw. Pain flickered in James's eyes. "Because she wanted to protect you, from me." Rachel swallowed, trying to process his words. She stood tall. "So you left her for money?" James's gaze darkened again. "I thought I could come back for her later, when I had secured my future, but by the time I did, she was gone. Rachel's hands curled into fists again. Her mother had suffered while this man had lived in luxury. She wasn't ready to forgive him, not yet, but she wasn't walking away, either. Rachel wasn't ready to call him her father, but she wasn't closing the door either. The story of her past wasn't just about forgiveness, it was about deciding the future. Rachel's story proves that the past doesn't have to define the future. Healing isn't about forgetting, it's about choosing what comes next. What do you think Rachel should do? Should she give James a chance to be the father she never had? Or is it better to keep her distance and move forward without him? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to never miss another powerful story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.